Hey, so maybe you are in the process of starting a business or decided you want to start a business, but then you're sitting there thinking to yourself, hey, I don't have anything to offer people. I don't have anything valuable. I don't have any skills. And if I did, it can't be worth that much. Nobody's going to pay me.
So today, we're going to show you the one skill that is needed to get started in business.
So when we first decided to start a business, I remember sitting there going, I have no skills. I have nothing people would want to buy from me.
I was thinking the same thing.
Whatever.
At
least okay, I went to college and I had nothing to show for it, and you were making more money than me, and you didn't even go to college.
Yeah, but I was working in a manufacturing plant, right, making plastic bags.
All right, so can we agree neither of us believed we had skills?
I definitely thought I had zero skills.
Well, I believe that too. And you know what? You may be sitting here thinking, yeah, me neither. How am I supposed to start a business? It sounds great. I would love to make money from a business or from an online business, but who's going to pay me? What am I going to do? Well, we want to share a story with you because I know that you're not the only person thinking that, okay? And so we're going to share a story. You probably heard it before. It actually comes from the Bible. Yeah. And there was a dude in the Bible named David, right? David. And we're going to paraphrase. We're not going to read the Bible to you right now. And this, whether you believe the Bible or not, that's fine. The principle is still super helpful for business, okay? So David was one of 18 million brothers. I made that up. I don't remember that.
7 or 8.
Anyways, and so
the youngest.
He was the youngest, and the king came and he was going to. And I'm sorry if I get some of these details wrong, but basically, they were trying to see who's going to be the next king when this king passed away, right? So they go through all the different brothers, and they're stronger than David. They're better looking than David. They're They say they're wiser than David. They have all these things that David doesn't have. They have skills, right? And David doesn't.
Visibly, showing skills, right? Like physical appearance, all these things that, they should be the guy because they're tall, they would look like a king.
They went through all the dudes, and it ended up that David was going to be the next king. So fast forward, David was out in the field. He was tending flocks and protecting sheep, and that's what he did. That's what he did all day, right? And you can imagine, he was a kid, and he was a younger boy, and he had a slingshot, and actually it was one of the ones that they swirled like a sling, not a slingshot, yeah. And so, and he would definitely he would have been practicing because he was protecting sheep and would have been doing all this stuff,
and
right?
Probably himself.
Right. Well, his older brothers were away at war, right? So he's defending against bears or whatever wild animals were there, and they're out fighting wars, right? And David's like, well, they're cool. They've got all this armor and swords and all this. I got the sling with a stone, and they got all this stuff, right? And so he goes out to give him food or something like that.
Yeah, he goes to give him food.
Right. And they're in the middle of this battle, and apparently there's this big giant Goliath dude standing in the middle, basically taunting them, saying, hey, send your best guy out to beat me, right?
And if you beat me, then y'all win.
Right.
And if I win, then we win.
Right.
Right?
But nobody wants to go out. Nobody wants to go out. All these tough guys with the swords and the thing and all this stuff. So David's gets there, and you can imagine him, the little scrawny kid there.
Tiny little kid.
And he's like, I'll go. And everybody's like, you don't have any skills. You can't go out.
They're basically okay, well, if you're going to go, you need sword and armor and all these things, right?
Right. So they put it all on him, and he's like, I can't do this.
He's like, I can't move in this.
I can't move in this. So he takes all the stuff off, and he goes, hey, I got my sling. I'm good. This is what I've been practicing and practicing and practicing. This is what I'm good at. So I got my sling, and so I'm going to take my sling, and I'm going to go out there.
And my rocks.
And so...
The rocks.
You do.
Don't go with just the sling. Make sure you got some ammo.
So you guys know the story. What ends up happening, or most of you have probably heard it, is he actually goes out there with a sling, and Goliath is laughing at him. He's like, you got nothing, dude. You got a sling
you don't
and
have
rocks.
armor on. What are you going to do?
You got nothing, right? And he's like this huge dude with armor, and anyways...
Giant spear.
A giant spear. And so, and sure enough, David takes his sling and his stone, and he whacks the guy right here.
Right in the forehead.
And so he whacks him in the forehead, kills the dude, right? And everybody's
and then he cuts his head off.
He does do that afterwards with the guy's own sword.
With his own sword, right?
Leave it to the dude to talk about that.
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know that he killed him with the stone.
That's true. I don't really know.
I just wanted to clarify that I don't know. So, anyways,
we are not Bible scholars, but the point of the story.
Well, I didn't want to read it exactly.
True. So, but the point of the story is this: is David didn't try to use skills that other people had or thought he should have.
Right.
He used the skills that he had developed from doing other things. What did he do? He was a shepherd. So he had a sling. That's how he protected. That's what he used. And he did it day in and day out and day in and day out. So he may not have looked like a warrior, but he had a skill that could be used in war.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like if you said, hey, I'm going to show up in battle with a sling and that's how I'm going to war, like that would have been laughable to most people. Mm-hmm. Well, but his skill was good enough that he could go to battle with it. Right, but it doesn't look like it.
Right. So what was the first thing he did? He acknowledged his skill, which was, hey, my skill is the slingshot. He acknowledged the fact that he had a skill, right? Yeah. And I want to encourage you to acknowledge the fact that you have skills.
For sure.
You do. Like, Zach, you used to work in manufacturing.
I did.
And you said, I don't have any skills. I work in manufacturing. But then you're like, how am I supposed to use this in the world of online entrepreneurship and all this stuff? Well, you figured out that you actually had a lot of skills that could be transferred from one to the other,
That's
just
true.
like David did.
That's true. Yeah, because I mean, like in manufacturing, you do a lot of things where you're, making sure that you're hitting lead times and you're being efficient and things like that. Well, come over to internet marketing. Well, there's definitely opportunities to be more efficient with the way you do things, right? With adding systems and automations and different things like that. So that skill, while it wasn't like exactly the same, right? Like if I throw rocks at bears, I can throw rocks at giants. Well, it's not exactly the same, but it's similar enough that it works.
But as soon as you now acknowledged your skill, then it was like, oh my goodness, I do have one, right? And then David applied that skill by taking it and actually using it. And you did the same thing. You applied your skill, and now you're really good at doing all sorts of automations and systems and setting those things up so that things can actually be hands-free, right?
Or as close to hands-free as possible.
Exactly, right? And so it's super important to acknowledge your skills and apply your skills. And so often we look at ourselves and we can't see it in ourselves, right? And so we want to encourage you today to ask yourself a couple of questions. If you're sitting here going, I don't have any skills, first of all, that's a lie. You do. I promise you. Everybody does. You just have to acknowledge your skills. You have to find those skills, right? And so here's a couple questions you can ask yourself. You can ask yourself is, who have I helped get a result or do something? Who have I helped? Like, what's the greatest result I've ever gotten for somebody? Like
the biggest transformation you've gotten for somebody.
What have I done to help them, right? And maybe it wasn't somebody else. Maybe it was for yourself. What have I done to help myself or make a transformation in myself? There are moms that have learned how to homeschool their children. Like, well, that is a transformation that they got. They learned how to do that. They didn't know how to do it. Now they do know how to do it. Well, then they go and sell things to other moms who want to homeschool their children. That's just an example. Shane Sams, he's an internet entrepreneur, and he did this. He and his wife were teachers, right? And they were teachers, and they knew how to make lesson plans.
So they started making lesson plans for other people.
And they went crazy, like absolutely crazy, right? Because they acknowledged their skill and they applied their skill. So our question to you is like, what transformation have you gotten for somebody else or for yourself? All right, start there and then say, who could use that? Who has a problem that transformation could fix, right? And then the last thing is, once you acknowledge that and you apply that, then you will become associated with that. And that's where you can really start to build your business, because you will start to be known as the guy who helps with lesson plans, or the guy who helps build funnels, or the guy who can do automations, or the girl who knows how to help me homeschool my children. There's so many different things. So, but the very first thing you have to do is you have to ask that question is, what transformation have I gotten for somebody else, or have I gotten for myself? And what is the skills in that I can use to serve and to help other people and solve problems for other people?
And one last thing. So also do the other thing that David did. When David got there, he did not pick up the sword. He did not use the sword and the armor and the other things, because guess what? That was somebody else's skill. That was not his skill. Mm-hmm. So because of that, he stuck true to who he was. right? Because if you'd have tried to fight him with the armor on, it wouldn't have worked.
He would have lost.
He would have lost because that's not who he was. So don't compare yourself to a different person and say, well, they're doing it this way, so that must be the only way to do it. Right. So,
and that's going to happen. I guarantee you, it's happened
sure.
to me a million times. Is you're going to look at somebody else, and it's the Myron Golden calls it "I'm just me-itis," right? It's like I'm just me. Their skill's better than my skill. No, their skill isn't better than your skill, and
it's just different.
It's just different. And so that's a great point. Is like that is actually the one skill that is going to make you successful in business. Is if you find your skill and stay true to your skill.
Absolutely.
So that is the skill to learn and to live by. Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you check out this other episode that we talk to you about another trap that a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs fall into that gets them stuck and keeps them stuck.